This official. Okay, good morning. We're live. Happy Friday. It's October 9th, 2020. We're ready to flex our brain muscles and our regular muscle. It's good. Just give it a flex stretch, right? It feels good when you do that. And today we're doing MS Excel exercises. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in the chat. That's going to take you to a Google document which has links to download the exercise files. The reason I'm doing this is this way I can easily add more stuff to the document, either as we go through the exercises this morning or after the fact. I'll leave this document live, and this way, this is what we're going to want to play with today. So go ahead and where it says download the exercise files here, just click on the two of those. We may not get to use both of them today. It just depends how things go and what time allows for. But these are the exercise files I use when I teach Excel at Santa Monica College. And it's just good sample data that we can play with to practice using things like filtering and tables and pivot tables. And, we're going to write some formulas with it to, pull new data out of the existing data. So we're going to have a lot of fun this morning. It's going to be action-packed. Right? Nonstop action. It's going to be better than a Jason Statham film this morning. All right, on to business. So everybody's got these files. Anybody have any trouble downloading them? All right, they're CSV files. So the first thing you're going to want to do, I'm going to open both of them up on my computer screen. Let me see which one we want to play with first. We're going to start with the contact list, the US 500.csv file. So let's get that one up on our screens. And of course, if you haven't already, the first thing you should do is save it as an Excel file, right? So file, save as, and we're just going to change the type here to an Excel file. Okay, so I'll give everybody a second to do that. And bear with me, I'm just on my other screen, making sure that I can see all of you and see the participant panel. And I want to make sure I can see the chat in case we've got questions there. So all good. Okay, perfect. All right, so once you've got this saved in Excel, the first thing we want to do is start making this look a little prettier, right? Because it's just raw data. So I'm starting here at A1, right? And I want to do Control-Shift-Right. And that selects across, and it'll stop once it sees the last cell that's got data in it. And then I want to do Control-Shift-Down arrow. And then I let go of the keyboard, and I just use this. It's handy to have a scroll wheel on your mouse. So I'm going to scroll down just a few lines just to make sure I really got to the bottom. Because when I did that, if there happened to be a missing name in column A, it would have stopped short of the end. So you want to make sure that you got to the right end point, right? Because that's what it's looking for. Even though I've got the whole range selected, the active cell that I'm starting from, if I go back up to the top, notice the sort of lighter cell, that's the active cell. So that's the one it's kind of using as the anchor so that when I'm going down, it's going to be looking for a blank in column A. It doesn't matter if there are blanks in any of the other columns. As soon as it sees a blank in column A, that's where it's going to stop selecting, right? And that's with Control and Shift and then an arrow key. And that works obviously any direction, okay? So once we've got that in place, we're going to press Control T like table. Okay, and then because you went and selected the range ahead of time, you don't even need to check this. And you probably don't even need to check that this is checked off, but make sure it's checked off, right? My table has headers. So pretty much you can hit Control T Enter very quickly, and instantly we've got it turned into a table. And the best way I can explain what a table is and what the sort of difference is that a table is like having a spreadsheet within the spreadsheet, right? It kind of has its own little world and it has its own behaviors, and it makes it really easy to do certain things, right? Notice the instant I did that at the top right, we have a color palette. So this is, it might not seem important, but it is really important. And I'll tell you why. When I'm cutting up, let's say, a PayPal file, and anybody who's seen my videos on this has seen me do this, where I take the original monthly statement from PayPal and I make duplicates of the tab because I want one tab for money in and another tab for money out. Right? Ooh, I said out almost like a Canadian. I said money out, And so the point being that I then color code the tables differently so that I know, so I have a clear visual cue that I'm, one world versus the other, so to speak. So I know exactly when I'm in the original table versus the money in and money out. So it's important to create these visual cues. It prevents you from making the mistake of doing something in one tab that you meant to do in another, right? And trust me, I've made that mistake. All of this is born out of my experience making mistakes and making lots of them. Okay, so what I did there was actually, let me back up on that. So while this whole table is selected still, what I did was, if you hit Control Spacebar, and I'm going to page up all the way here, Control Spacebar will highlight the entirety of the columns, right? So it'll go beyond just selecting the table, and Control Spacebar highlights the whole column. And while the whole columns are selected, I can go in between any two column headers, right? I can go in between A and B or B and C. It doesn't matter. Since the whole thing is selected, what I do to one, I do to them all. So if I move my mouse between, let's say, D and E here, you'll notice when I get right over the threshold there, my cell pointer, my mouse pointer kind of changes shape, right? It turns into that little cross-looking thing with the arrows on the right and left side. As soon as I see that symbol, it means it's ready for me to double click. And when I do that, it'll auto size the columns to make sure every column is exactly as wide as it needs to be to fit whatever data is sitting in there, right? So it'll take the row that's got the widest amount of data in that column, and it will resize it automatically to make sure that that all fits. So nothing will be cut off, and you can start to see very clearly, all the data that's in each column, right? Another thing that having turned this into a table does, by the way, is notice, of course, right now when I'm, at the home spot, A1, let's just say, I can see A, B, C, and D, and so on for the columns. And then the first row, of course, has my headers, right? First name, last name, full name, and so on. If I move my mouse down or my cell pointer down, I'm using my arrow keys. Watch what happens as soon as I scroll down past where the first row is. Notice what happens the second I go past it. The header columns get thrown up to where the letters used to be. So I don't have to freeze panes. The table, as long as I establish the table where the headers are on the very first row, it will do this. As soon as I scroll past, where I can no longer see that first row, it throws those headers in place of the letters, where they normally are, so that wherever I go in this table, I can see always, what sort of column I'm in. And notice also, if I move my cell pointer off of the table, all that goes away. As soon as I move out here to column N, I'm now seeing the letters again, and my table tools tab from the top also disappears. If I go back one to the left, table design comes back. So you have to be on the table. Another thing I learned the hard way one day when I first started playing with tables many moons ago, and I had lost all of this, and I was like, what happened? And eventually I realized it was because I had clicked somewhere off of the table. So if you're looking for this stuff and it's gone, it's probably because you've clicked off the table, right? Okay, now let's get to some fun stuff. Let's start cleaning the data. I don't see any questions. I'm assuming so far this is all very straightforward. All right, so let's start with the phone numbers, because this is just kind of a fun little exercise, and it teaches us a few cool little features of Excel. So notice the phone numbers here are formatted with dashes in between every part. But Excel has a specific format type for phone numbers. In order for that to work, though, I need to get rid of any extra characters. It needs to be just a string of 9 digits, right? Or 10 digits rather, 3, 3, and 4, right? So what I want to do is I want to get rid of all the dashes so that each of these phone numbers in both phone number columns is stripped of those dashes, and it's just a 9-digit string of numbers. And then we're going to apply the phone number formatting that Excel has, okay? So we're going to start off on row 2. We don't want to include the headers, of course. So on row 2 in the phone 1 column, and then just shift right arrow will select one to the right, and then control shift down arrow will select all the way down once again to the bottom. And once again, I grab my scroll wheel on my mouse and just make sure that I did successfully get all the way to the bottom, right? So that's the super quick way to get this range selected, and then control and the number 1. And if you have a number pad on the right, that number 1's not going to work. Use the number 1 that's at the top of your keyboard, right? On these control number combinations that we do, it doesn't work on the number pad. So it has to be control and the number 1 that's at the very top left of your keyboard. And when you press that, it brings up your complete format cells dialog. right? So I use this all day long when I'm in Excel. I'm frequently using Control-1 to get into here quickly, okay? And so that's how we're going to get in here, and we want to apply the special phone number format. But before we do, like I said, it's not going to work because of the dashes. So before we do this, we're actually going to cancel, and we're going to do a search and replace. And we're going to search for the dash, and we're going to replace it with nothing, right? That's a trick I learned a long time ago. I said, let me see if this works. And I went to the replace dialog, and I just left it blank and hit replace all. And lo and behold, it worked. It replaced all the dashes with nothing. So let's try it. I've got the range selected. I'm going to press Control F as in find, and I'll type a dash. And then we'll click on replace here, and we'll just leave that blank. But you have to actually go into this dialog so that it knows you actually want to replace it with nothing. And then we'll hit replace all. And it should say all done. We made 2,000 replacements. Okay, and close. Clear as mud? Clear as mud. You guys know mud's not clear, right? Just check it. Okay. So we've got that done. Now we can press Control-1. Then you might hear puppies in the background. Let me know if you do, because they're playing now. All right, controlling the number 1. And we're in the number tab on the Format Cells dialog. And we want to go to Special. And there we'll find phone number. So Control-1, it'll bring up Format Cells. If you happen to be in there recently and you're on one of the other tabs, I believe it will remember what tab you're in. So just make sure you're on the number tab. Go to Special and Phone Number and OK. And now you'll see a range of beautifully formatted phone numbers, right? One thing to keep in mind, if this data is going somewhere else, if you're going to be importing it somewhere, when you import it, this formatting is not going to get recognized. You're going to be importing a 10-digit string of numbers. So just be aware of that. But most likely, if you're importing this into a phone number field, whatever software you're importing it into, whether it's CRM software or even QuickBooks Online, if it's QuickBooks Customers or whatever, it will probably adopt the appropriate formatting for a phone number once it's in there. So generally speaking, I found that you're better off having raw data than using any kind of special formatting when you're going to import it somewhere anyway, right? Oftentimes before you even can import something like this, you'll have to save it back out as a CSV. With Sasient, you don't. You heard that, right? Did you hear the puppy? If they happen to come around here, I'll have to log in with my mobile so you can catch a little bit of the show. All right, so we've got phone numbers formatted, okay? And now let's play with the filters. Notice when we turn the tables on, it gave us the filter arrows. We have these arrows going across the top. Okay, those are filter arrows, and we can use those to chisel down the data that's in the list to get at something very specific. For example, let's say I wanted to see all the people in this list who are in the state of California, right? So on the state dropdown, I'll click the arrow. You can obviously just uncheck where it says select all and check off California. That's one way. The other way is you can use the search. Sometimes you get a long list like this, and so it's not as easy to just unselect and check off what you're looking for. So if I start typing CA, it's going to filter the list down to anything that it sees that matches that search, and it sort of assumes that that must be what I'm looking for. So it checks it off, and I can click OK, and then you'll see it works perfectly. That now I have the list chiseled down to just the California-based people. Okay. Note on the left, my row numbers are now in blue. Normally they're black. That lets me know that this list is currently filtered, that there are going to be gaps in the rows, right? So just be careful, because if you do something while the list is filtered, in some cases you might actually be doing something to the filtered out rows that are in between, right? So in order to ensure, and Excel's gotten pretty smart about this, generally speaking, when you do something now, in current versions of Excel, it's smart about this, and that if I try to do something like if I want to copy this whole range, you can kind of tell from the way the dotted lines are going around that it's only selecting the visible portion of the table. It's very hard to see on my screen, but if you select your own and press Control-C, you'll see what I'm talking about. But just to be absolutely certain that we're only looking at the visible cells, we want to add this command here that you can see here on my screen. When I move my mouse over it, it says select visible cells. There's no other way that I know of to access this command than to add it here to the quick access toolbar. And I'm going to show you how to find it. So first of all, the quick access toolbar is this bar here that has the save button and the undo and so on. Some of you may have it at the top. That's a preference, right? So I can right click here and I can say show the quick access toolbar above the ribbon. So some of you may see it up here. You have to right click exactly where the actual tools are. If you right click to the right of that, it's not going to work. So if I right click on any of these commands, I get that. I get this list of options, and I just like it below the ribbon. That's just my own preference. Now, when I right click it, this time I want to choose Customize Quick Access Toolbar. This is how you'll get access to all the commands. Okay, and when I do that, it can be a little overwhelming. It starts you off with, quote unquote, popular commands. And I don't believe you'll find this one in there. So what you'll want to do is change this and say, show me all commands. And then while you're here, just type an S, and that will take you down to all the ones that begin with S. You can't do like, how in QuickBooks in a chart of accounts, you can type the first 2 or 3 letters and it'll take you there. This doesn't work that way. You only get the first letter. That'll get you to S. And now we're looking for select visible cells. There it is. You'll select it on this side. You'll click add, and then it'll put it at the bottom on the right side. This is telling me what's going to be visible in the quick access toolbar. And then of course I can select anything here and use these arrows to move them up or down to reorder them. Okay, so that's how you'll find and add select visible cells on your spreadsheet. You'll click OK. I'm going to click cancel. And that way, when I select this whole range, I just click this little icon here. And that way, I'm assured absolutely that all that's been selected is what's visible. So if I filter my table, then I can use that command to make sure if I'm trying to copy, let's say, a range within here, that's where I only want what's visible. That's how I can make sure I'm doing this properly. Okay, and I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second here because we have some special visitors now. 893. Hold on, join. Of course, they'll probably run away before I get this done. 3019. 2147 and join
814-833.
Wait,
we're just seeing you.
I know, I'm turning it around. It's a little slow. I know, nobody wants to see me.
Oh,
there
my
they are.
goodness. Aw.
Hey, no eating the floor. I have to get my floors redone. Like the whole house needs them redone. Hi, you guys want to learn some Excel? They're like, no, we just want to eat your slippers.
Ankle biters?
Yep. All the way. Hey, guys. Hey. Hi.
Aww.
Say hi to everybody. You're famous. You're on the world famous Nerd Enterprises broadcast. They're like, yeah, we don't care. We don't care. We just want to eat your floor.
Oh, so cute.
Total distraction.
Total. All right. Back to business here. Back to work.
How do you work with that?
It's very difficult.
It is.
Okay, Artemis. That's enough. Here. Hi.
Oh,
Hello.
hey, baby.
Say hi. Hello. My name is Artemis.
Oh my gosh.
And I am the goddess of the hunt. And I have to go hunt around the house for things to chew on.
Like the floor.
Aphrodite. Oh, come here, you.
Watch those cables.
And I am the mighty Aphrodite.
Hello.
Aren't her colors beautiful?
They're gorgeous.
We hit the jackpot. Hey.
So
What breed are they?
Are they sisters from the same litter?
They are sisters from the same litter. There were 6 of them.
And what's the breed?
They're terrier mixes. They're not pure. They're they're definitely mixes.
Wait till we start.
Oh, Susan's got hers.
Charlie says hi.
Hi, Charlie.
Woo.
All right. It's hard to get back to work, right? Now you just want to go play with them. So, all right. So now we know how to filter the list and use the select visible cells command so that we can, make sure that we're just copying and pasting only the things that we want. So if I wanted to take this list now of only people who are in California, I could select the range. I can click select visible cells, press Control C, and I can open up a new tab here, call it CA, right? And press Control V, and I'll get a list of all just the California people, right? And maybe, why would I want to do this? Because maybe now I want to grab their email addresses, import them into a CRM, tag them California, so I could send emails to my California people, right? Just to give you one quick example of a real world use case for something like this, right? Again, it's about knowing how to use these tools so you can quickly grab data and move it or code it or do whatever you need to with it. This is why I think it's still, I see more and more people trying to go out there, and of course they're trying to sell whatever app they're selling and trying to tell you that you don't need Excel, that Excel is, I saw one recently where these guys were like, you're using technology from the 1970s. No, you're not. This tool has gotten so much more advanced from the original spreadsheets that for somebody to say that is clearly they're just being stupid and trying to sell something, right? So if you see somebody saying something like that, if you hear them saying something like that, just run away because they're just trying to sell you something, right? Learn to use the tool. It will make your life so much easier. All right. Next, let's go back to our original tab. So did everybody do that? Did everybody get a copy of all the California people in a separate tab? That's the beauty of this format. I've never done it this way before. And I think it was Courtney who pointed out to me that it's nice for people to be able to play along with me when I'm doing this, because in the past, when I've done Excel demonstrations, it's just you watching me how to do it, which is, I'm sure, really exciting, but it's so much better when you can actually practice this stuff yourself. All right, so back to the US 500 tab. Now, if I want to clear my filters out, I can click on the filter itself, but let's say I've applied multiple filters. That's not going to be so easy to go column by column and figuring out which ones I need to reset. So if we click on our data tab up here and click this clear option that's up in the ribbon under the data tab, that will instantly and automatically clear all filters. So the list will no longer be filtered. Any filters that had been applied will now be reset. So again, that's in the data tab and over here on the clear side. Okay, another fun thing we can do, and I joke about this, but there is kind of a live use case. Again, we're looking at contact data. So the use cases I'm thinking of are, the default is like CRM kind of stuff that we might want to do, right? So let's say I am emailing, I want to send an email out to, based on something that's really only going to appeal to tech savvy people, right? To people who are pretty sophisticated when it comes to computers and internet and technology. Well, using the email address, and this is going to sound funny, but I believe it has a real live use case. If I highlight the whole email address, watch what we can do. And I don't have to scroll up to the top. I just kind of like to see where I'm working from. So remember, don't include the header, only the data. Click the drop down arrow. And in the search, let's type @AOL.com. Okay. It sounds funny, but this is likely the people who aren't that tech savvy. So I can sort of chisel them out of the list and say that I'm not going to send it to people who are still operating with an AOL email address, because chances are somebody who's using AOL is probably like, somebody who's maybe a little older, who's just they're just checking their email to stay in touch with their kids and grandkids, right? They're probably not people who are going to be interested in anything that's, based on people who are, very tech savvy. So I can use this to kind of filter the list down and chisel them out. I would almost want to do like the opposite filter and say only people who do not have AOL.com in their email address. So I can go to text filters here. Okay. And I can say does not contain @AOL.com. And boom, that will filter all the AOL.com emails out of the list. And now this is the list I want to copy and paste with the select visible cells into a new tab and call that my tech savvy people, right? Probably some other ones you might want to filter out, like, Hotmail, even Yahoo, right? So you might run through a couple of iterations of this. So again, I realize it sounds a little judgy, but my point is that sometimes you can use these little cues to try and, filter things out. The bottom line is you can think of lots of use cases that you can use this kind of thing for, where ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to take a bigger data set and chisel it down to something that we need very specifically, right? I've learned, as somebody who sends multiple emails out every week to my list, I've learned how important it is to do your best to segment that list based on people who are going to be interested in whatever thing it is you're emailing about, right? So, and a lot of you have seen an example of this recently, where in my own Kajabi system, I have been, that's what I use to send out my emails. And I've been sending out links to a landing page for my upcoming course on QuickBooks Online for real estate brokers. And I've been asking people to fill out a quick opt-in, letting me know they're interested. And what that does is it takes people from, who are on my complete list, and it tags them real estate. So now I can send a targeted email to only the people with the real estate tag in their profiles. So I know this one's only going to the people who are interested. I don't need to waste people's time or bore them with something they're not interested in. Hey guys, please stop eating my floors. There we go. You have to watch every little thing that they do. So my floor is coming apart here, the wood floors. And so it's one of several projects that are overdue around the house. And these guys will get into absolutely everything. All right. So again, the filters are going to be something that's very powerful, and you can do multi-level filters, right? So like earlier we did California. I could further filter it, by county within California, right? Why would that be useful? Well, some states might have counties with the same name. So if I want to be sure I'm only, looking at a particular county in a particular state, then you filter first by the state and then by the county, okay? Obviously, you can also sort these, right? And if you use the filter arrows, you can actually sort from within the filters, right? But of course, you can also use your big sort options up here. Okay, so very, very easy to do. Trying to think what else I can show you on this. I mean, the rest of what you can do with this particular data set is really just on sorting and filtering, to get down to specific data. So here's an exercise I can give you all to do. Show me a list of all the people. Let's try this one. Show me the list of all the people in the state of South Dakota. Let's start there. Filter the list for all the people in the state of South Dakota. Watch, it's going to be like just one. It is just one? Okay.
It's one. Yeah, it's Sage Weisner.
All right, so let's fix that. Let's find all the people in let's find all the people in Albany, New York. Let's try that one. No. And while you're doing that, I'm going to fix something here. That's right. Privilege is taken away. You no longer have access to the floor. I had to cover the spot with Ralphie's old bed. Okay, so Albany, New York. I'm going to do the state. Of course, I'm going to do New York. By the way, I'm familiar with this data set, but always be careful that some might be the abbreviation. Some might actually have it spelled out. So you have to check for iterations sometimes. But we're going to filter for the state of New York, and we're going to filter for the city of Albany. And okay, and actually it looks like we just had one result there.
One.
Okay, so now you get the hang of it, and as you can see, the more you filter, the fewer results you're going to get. And sometimes you're trying to get one thing out of it, and you realize, wait, I didn't get enough results, so maybe I need to go wider. And of course, you can multi-select, right? So maybe I want, Albany, New York, and Buffalo, because that's also kind of upstate New York. What else is kind of up that way? Syracuse is kind of the other side of upstate New York. So you can start checking off more things and you'll get more results, of course, right? So you can individually and multi-select. And notice, by the way, if I do the search, right? And now let's say I go deer. You can check this off that says add current selection to filter. So if you don't check that off, it will kind of reset everything and go to just Deer Park now, I believe. Yeah, so that completely resets the search. So what you'll want to do is when you start typing Albany, right, you'll check off here where it says add selection to current filter. Okay, and the other one was Buffalo. So checking this off will basically do the search incrementally.
And
right?
Syracuse.
And Syracuse was the other one. Perfect. All right, so that's the basic rundown on data tables, filtering, and using the search and filters. You've got some powerful stuff here. Again, we'll click clear to clear it all out. So it becomes very easy to find things. I mean, I can even search the phone numbers on an area code. I grew up in the 516 area code, right? But notice it's going to also get numbers with 516 in the middle. But once I've chiseled it down this way, it's easy to eliminate the ones that don't start with 516, right? I could have also said in the custom text filters, hold on. I'll cancel it. So in the number filters, if I go to custom filter, I guess because it's seeing these as numbers, it's different filters than a text filter. I was thinking I could do starts with 516, but this is easy enough to do. So I can see who kind of lives near where I grew up. Right. So again, this is something this is why I like giving you the file to play with. Notice within that filter, I can also clear it for just the one filter right from the drop down, right? So if I want to clear it back out, I can do that. And notice if up in the data tab, the clear is grayed out, that means nothing's filtered right now, right? That's the only reason why I can't actually click it. But this is kind of your get out of jail free card, because if you sat there multi-selecting different filters, you can kind of get lost in it and you don't remember which ones you need to reset. So this is I call this your get out of jail free card here. All right, let's switch over to the other file now, which was the sales data file. Okay, this one we're going to have some fun with. We're going to move a little bit faster on this one because we're already kind of running short on time. I do not see anything in the chat so far. And no questions in the live Facebook feed. I got a thumbs up from somebody. Thank you. I just need to paint my hand blue and do this all day. Or red, and I can do this. Anyway, come on, give me some more thumbs up in the gallery over there. All right, so nothing in the chat other than Courtney's comment. So cute. Thank you. Oh, you meant the dogs. Well, thank you for that anyway.
You're welcome.
All right, so now that we know how to do this, we're going to do this quickly. We want to quickly convert this one into a table, right? See, when you know these commands, it's just like at the speed of thought, you can get these things done, right? And the first thing I want to do is clean up these dates. Look at this. It's just such an ugly date format to me. No, Tiffany, you think I'm being mean to the dates? Sorry. Sorry, dates. Nice. Nice dates. Good dates. Okay. Let's highlight this whole range. Controlling the number 1 for our format cells dialog. We want to go to date. And I like the double digit format all the way through, right? Double digit month, double digit day, double digit year. And click OK. All right, this way things just line up really nicely. And sometimes when we get a data set from somewhere, like a database like QuickBooks Online or something else, it comes in as raw text. So even though it looks like a date, it's not really getting recognized as a date by Excel. In this case, we know that it did because when I changed it to the date format that I wanted, you could clearly see that it updated. The fact that it did that tells me that we've got Excel recognizing this truly as dates. But in case it doesn't, in case you change that format and you see no difference take place here, that means Excel is looking at that as raw text and it doesn't see it as a date, which means we'll want to go here to data and then over to text to columns, and make sure the whole range is selected, of course. And while you're in text to columns, we can just go to fixed width and click next. And it doesn't matter, click anywhere out here so that you're not cutting any dates off, and click next. And then we want to select the right side and choose do not import, and then click finish. And so if it wasn't recognizing these as dates before, now it will. What that really does is it kind of resets the formatting of the cell and makes Excel kind of take another look at it. So it doesn't look like it did anything, but trust me, it did. If these weren't seen as dates before, now they will be without question, right? And one way to test it is change it to a different kind of date format just to make sure that it updates. If it doesn't update, then it's not seeing them as dates. Okay, so whenever we see dates, we want to make sure that's super clean, and you're going to see why. Because when we run pivot tables have a way of analyzing dates where it's able to kind of take the dates and bucket them appropriately into months and quarters and so on. So we definitely want to make sure that we have these dates recognized as such. Jeff says, Seth, could I send the website link I mentioned? Yes, I can. I thought I saw that comment earlier. But yes, definitely, Jeff, I will send you. Oh, earlier you said I'd be interested in the link for the demo files. Yes, I'll send out the link to everyone.
I put the link in the chat again after he asked that.
To the document. Oh, perfect. Oh, that was for the demo files. Now he wants the link to the website. Got it. Sorry, I'm a little slow. Yes, in fact, what I'll do is when I post today's recording up on my website, I will put the link in there to the website where you can, well, I'll put the same link so you can download these data files, but I'll also put the link to the website where I got these files from, so that you can poke around there because they have some really cool sample data sets that obviously the use case is perfect for when you want to kind of play around with something like this. Okay. Now let's go into the purchase price and let's just kind of format these very consistently. I'll use the currency formatting, right? The quantity is fine, right? But I'll just apply the comma formatting for a second just to make sure that everything's formatted right. And then I'll kill off the decimals. And when I see a percentage, I generally want a percentage to have 2 decimal places. That's just my OCD, but I feel like I'm not seeing everything if it's not showing me that. Okay, but now what you'll notice is, so what we're looking at here, this data, these are orders that have been placed with a company. The people are actually salespeople that are responsible for different territories like France and Germany and Brazil and so on. And then, of course, we have the product, right? And we have in the first column the category of the products, right? So that's just so you understand the context of what we're looking at. What we've got is a list of orders. They've given us the quantity and the purchase price and a discount level, but we don't have the total order in here. So I want to add a few more columns to calculate a couple of things because I want to be able to see, first of all, what the subtotal is before the discount and what the final total is for each order. So we're going to add in a couple of columns here. So the first thing we're going to do is do the subtotal, which is just going to be the unit price times the quantity. Okay, so just take unit price times quantity. Notice when you're doing a formula based on things that are in a table, it writes the formula a little differently. If you slow down and look closely at it, you'll see it makes it really clear what you're doing. Instead of giving you like cell references like G2 and H2, you can see I'm taking the purchase price times the quantity. That's another kind of advantage of using tables. It didn't like something I did. I don't know why. Oh, because I think I go away. There. So, and the other thing the table does is I don't have to copy the formula down. Once I do that formula on the first row, the table makes the assumption that I want to do that across the board, and it does it for me. If I don't for some reason, I can hit Control Z, and it will kind of back up to just where the one. In other words, that step of copying it down, it gets treated as an action in Excel's history of action, so I can use undo to back up the sort of copy down that it did for me instantly when I wrote that formula. And now we'll format these for currency. Okay, and I can double click the right side of the J column because some of the numbers got too wide. So when you see those number signs, that means there's data that doesn't fit. So you just widen the column and you can see that. Now I want the discount in dollars. I have the percentage, right? So I'll head it up with the word discount and then dollars in parentheses just to clearly distinguish between the percentage, right? And again, this is another easy formula. We're simply going to take the subtotal times the discount level. But before you do it, we want to start with a minus sign. And I'm going to explain why. All right, but first let's do minus and then take the discount times with the asterisk, the 174. And that way, where it does come up with a result, it comes up with the result as a negative. This accomplishes two things for me that I think are very important here. Because now when I get the net order total, first of all, the formula is going to be a sum formula as opposed to taking one thing minus another. Second of all, visually, it's very clear when I'm looking at this that the result I'm getting is going to be based on the subtotal minus the discount. If these present as positive numbers and I'm taking this minus that, it just looks weird. It throws me off for a minute because when I see two positive numbers, my brain naturally thinks I should be adding them, right? So for those two reasons, ease with writing the formulas and also from a presentation standpoint, I want the discount to present as a negative number. I'll format this as dollars, widen it up. And this way, you can see what I'm talking about. Now we have 100.80 minus 504 equals 95.76. It's just very clear that we're subtracting, this from that. Okay. And now we have our complete data set with appropriate order totals. Okay. Now, who wants to have some fun? Anybody want to have fun? Everybody's cameras are off. What's going on? Did everybody run out and get puppies? Be honest. No? I feel so alone. Well, I have company though. I have Elaine and Tiffany. Plenty of company, right?
Some would say more than enough.
More than enough, right? More than plenty. Wonderful even. All right, let's have some fun. All right, so when I've got data in a table like this, and I go to the table design tab, we want to click here where it says summarize with pivot table. Okay, but before we do, don't click it yet. Wait, hands off the mouse. Notice here, table name. So I can name these tables, and it's very helpful to name these tables because when I have more than one table, it makes it much clearer. It makes it much clearer, which table I want to use when I'm doing something, when I'm referencing something in a table. Tiffany, did you have your hand up? Did you have a question? No? Oh, you were taking your hands off.
Take our hand off the mouse.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe you were like, hey, something's wrong. All right. Anyway, so you can name the table. We can go in here. Now it's a little picky about what you can put in the name. Just call it sales. I think it'll take an underscore data. Yep. That works. You can't use spaces. You can't have any special characters. Pretty much underscores work. I doubt you could even do a dash. Yeah, see, it doesn't like the dash. It's got to be an underscore. There, it went back to underscore. Okay, so now when I click summarize with pivot table, see how nice that is? It's a lot clearer. It's just more visually clear. This is the right data source that I want to use, right? And I'll click OK. You don't need to worry. We definitely want it in a new worksheet. So all the default settings are what we want. Click OK. And now we've got our canvas, right? This is a canvas, and we're about to use it to paint a picture, right? And this is where pivot tables are just beautiful. And a lot of people think pivot tables are like, oh my God, they're pivot tables. They're not complicated. Here's how it works, okay? On my bottom right, I have 4 quadrants. Think of when you create a report in QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online, right? Imagine if you had the power and the flexibility to take any field and put it wherever you want and say, this is what I want in my rows, this is what I want in my columns, and when I do that, it'll just move the data around and make it work, right? I'm dying for Intuit to come out with this. I saw something recently under NDA that seems like it's moving in that direction. So for QuickBooks Online Advanced specifically. So just, that's all I can say. After that, they're going to, they'll have to kill me. So anyway, so that's kind of what we're doing here, right? And the other day I did a video showing how you can very quickly actually take the data out of a detail report in QuickBooks Online, get it into a flat file so you can do the same exact kind of stuff we're about to do here. So let's take our net order total here, and we're going to drop it into the values quadrant. And it's got this very big, crazy number. If we right click this number, we can go to the number format, right? And just kind of choose how we want that number to look. So I like seeing the negative number is in red brackets with the $sign. So you just pick however you want that to look, right? So that I like to do right off the bat, because it's as we build out the table, it just, the numbers present a lot better, of course, when it's formatted properly. Okay. So let's start off with something kind of obvious and simple that we might want to look at. We'll start with the category name. All right. So instantly I've got sales by category. That quickly, just drag and drop, boom, sales by category. But here, and I could do this in QuickBooks Online if this data was coming from something like that. But what I can't do in QuickBooks Online is then within that, look at it by product. So if I click and drag product below category name in the rows, now instantly I've got groupings, but with category and then within that by product. Boom. Right. And for some reason, pivot tables default to showing the subtotals at the top. So let's go to the design tab up here. You should have, when you have to make sure your cell pointer is somewhere on the pivot table, and you'll have pivot table analyze, and you'll have design. Okay, in design, of course, you can change your color palette just like you could with the table. But over here on the left, you'll see subtotals. And let's change it to show subtotals at the bottom of the group. Click that. It moves them down to the bottom. Okay, up here, again, you can change the color palette. And this is important because with some of these, the data is not as easy to read as with others, right? So like I happen to like this one, right? Tiffany, you don't like my colors? No, it's ugly? All right, let's change it. I want to make Tiffany happy. It's important. All right, let's go with green. Maybe like something like that. Is that better? Okay, good. We like that. It's green, like QuickBooks and money. All right. So now I told you I went to great lengths to talk to you about making sure the order date was properly formatted, right? Let's stick that in the columns and watch what it does. Now we have it broken out by year. Right? So put the date in the columns. It breaks it out by year. This data is old, so it's going back a few years. Okay. And of course, notice they're zipped up. And if I scroll down to the bottom here, this is my pivot table fields, which of course by now, hopefully you've recognized these are the columns that came from the source data, right? If I scroll down to the bottom, you can see what it did with the dates. It's got quarters and years, right? Let's say I take the quarters out. Okay. And then what I can do is I can actually right click on any of these years, just so that I'm getting into options with respect to that field in general. And let's go to expand and collapse. And let's go to expand entire field. And now I've got really nicely laid out data that shows me each year, first of all, each category and product within that, each year and month, and what the sales were. All the way out. And some of these, as long as we're using subtotals, like in columns, some of these color palettes do a little better of a job of showing you where those are. If I scroll down here, staying with green, of course, I think this one may do a better job of, no, that's nasty. I don't like that at all. I know there's one of these that does a pretty good job with the...
Go back to your yellow. You're accustomed to that mustard look.
No, it's not, because that's not going to get me what I want here anyway. I'm just trying to remember. One of these layouts actually it shades the subtotaled columns a little better so that they stand out a little more clearly. And maybe it's like this. No. That one, I don't know. I give up. One of these did it. Anyway, you can play around with it and figure that out. Okay, so this quickly gives us, it gives us a very quick way to analyze this data. So we can chisel it down and see things. And that's why we call it a pivot table, because it's very easy to pivot around on the data and look at things different ways, right? So here's an exercise for everybody to try as we finish up the hour. Now that you know how to do this, we're going to uncheck all of this. We're going to uncheck the category, the order date, the product, and leave the net order total in there. We'll get the years out of there, right? So this way you don't have to start all over with the amount in there. So here's what I want you to show me. I want to see sales by country, and within that by salesperson. Right? Remember the name, the last name and first name in here is salespeople. So I want to see sales by country, right? We can group them by year, but I want to see sales by country and within that by salesperson. And I'll give you guys a couple minutes to put that together, and then I'll show you how to do it. And actually, that's our hour already. It went by super fast.
Say it again. Sales by country.
Sales by country, and within that by salesperson. And then let's group that by year. Let me know when you're ready. And it may be a little messy because we have the salespeople's names broken up first and last. I'm going to show you how to clean that up once I do it myself. There's two ways to actually clean that up. I meant to do one thing earlier that I didn't do. You got it, Tiffany? All right. All right, so here's what we want. So I'm going to drag the country into the rows, right? Within that, I need the salespeople. So I'm going to drag the last name and then the first name. By the way, you can resize this. You have to move your mouse a little bit carefully there, and you'll see it change shape so you can resize it so you can make more room. Okay, so we've got sales by country, and within that by salesperson. Okay, and then I said, let's also group it by year. I lost it. Oopsie, come on. Well, that's just annoying.
Ruh-roh.
All right, date. Wait, there it is. All right. Whew. Okay, so be careful with that one. Now we need the order date and the columns just like we did before, and that will pretty much group it by year. Okay, now how to get this to look a little cleaner. Let's go over to the design, okay, and we go to report layout, and you have some choices here. So if we say show it in tabular form, it kind of flattens things out a little bit, right? And then I don't need the subtotals by last name, right? So let's just start off by saying do not show subtotals. And that kind of cleans it up real nice, right? So what I did was in the report layout, I said show in tabular form. And then for subtotals, I said, let's just not show subtotals, okay? So that's a really quick and easy way to, to group this and make it look a lot easier to read. So now I can see within each country, all of my salespeople, what their sales were grouped by year, right? And I can kind of see, who did better in Argentina, right? I can look at Michael and say, why did Michael sell so little, right? And by the way, with pivot tables, you can double click a number and drill in, and it will open up a new tab and give you a report of what makes up that number. So if I want to see, what Michael sold for a whole $76, I can double click that, and it actually gives me the details of what's in that number. Notice it creates a new tab. It's called sheet 2. I can rename that, but it shows me that he's got 2 orders, right? One for 36 and one for 40. Okay, and then I can just delete that when I'm done analyzing it if I don't need to keep it for any reason. So you can double click any number in a pivot table and get the drill down details of what's in that number. Okay, another cool thing I'll show you. Let's get the order date out of there. Let's put the country in the columns. And boom, look at that. So I took the years out, so it's not grouped by year anymore. But this is like a little cleaner layout. And by the way, see how this font is hard to see on the grand total? I can use my regular palettes to fix that. Right, so I can see more clearly what the totals are. But this gives me a nice clean layout by country. But let's say I only want to look at it for one particular year. That's where the filters come in. So I can say, yeah, let's just drop order date into the filters. This isn't as pretty as when we're using the filters on, when it's in as part of the data. So it's almost better, I think, if we do it like this. Let's take order date out of there. Let's put order date. We'll put it over here under the name. Okay, because it just filters better when the data is part of the data. And so we'll go in here and say, I only want 2005. And so again, that makes it still nice and clean. I can pull my quarters out. I don't need those. And I can even go up here and pull the actual order date out because I only care about the year for this purpose, right? So that gives me a nice clean view. And now I can see for each of these salespeople and by country, who sold what during the year 2005. Okay, and you can do the same thing filtering any other data here. So you can filter on the country, right? So I can go in here and just like we did on tables earlier, I can say, I just want to look at, selected countries, right? So let's say Argentina, Brazil, Portugal. I'm picking, Portugal has, I was going to say I'm picking my Spanish speaking countries. Portugal obviously is actually Portuguese. Similar languages, but definitely not the same. Venezuela. So I can look at kind of South America that way here. And as soon as I find myself doing something like that, I might go back to the source data and create a column for the, the sort of country, the continent, right? Because that's really what we did here is we selected it by continent. So this way we can kind of group the countries in whatever continent they belong to. And if I'm dealing with a big multinational company that's got sales all over the world, like this one apparently does, that information can become very important and useful and relevant, right? For analyzing data. And again, not something you can do easily in any accounting product that I know of. I'm not picking on QuickBooks Online here. It's just not what they're built to do. Pivot tables are built to give you very powerful capabilities with respect to data analysis. And so that's why it's so important. That's why I go over pivot tables so often. Two reasons. One, because of that. And two, because I think a lot of people who haven't had experience with them think they're like really hard to do. And hopefully you're seeing now that they're really not all that hard to do. They're pretty easy actually to understand. And they're, I don't know, to me, they're kind of a lot of fun to play with. So that is my story. And I am sticking to it on this beautiful Friday, October 9th, 2020. I hope you all learned something here and had some fun along the way.
It's our Thanksgiving weekend up here in Canada.
Oh, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Very nice. Do you guys eat turkey for Thanksgiving like we do?
You betcha.
All right. Cool. Enjoy it. Don't eat too much of it. Makes you fall asleep. And well, if nothing else today, I showed you some puppies, right? If you got nothing else out of today, you got to see some puppies. That's important.
Do we get to end on the puppies or are they gone?
No, they're gone. As soon as I moved Ralphie's bed over the spot on the floor that they like to chew on, they went back to the other side. They're like, okay, this is boring now. Sometimes they start chewing on Ralphie's old blanket, and then I get mad at them because Ralphie would not be happy if he knew that they were desecrating his sacred blanket. So we don't allow that.